Next Tuesday, the much anticipated Mirrorwatch event is starting in Overwatch 2. What lore, what gameplay, and what rewards can we expect? Let's have a look. Mirrorwatch is the main event for Season 10, and it does what you would expect for an event with that name. It flips around all of the alliances. It gives us the Overwatch from an alternate universe, the whole what-if thing. And as we have seen in the skins that were already released, or that are going to be released in the next few weeks, this is going to be very interesting. But what can we expect exactly? The game mode is set to pitch heroes against each other on a talent version of Gibraltar with some altered kits. Kind of like that April Fool's event from a few weeks ago, but a little less silly. What is the story exactly behind this game mode? How did Doomfist become the strike commander for Overwatch? Where's Jack Morrison? Where's Winston? And why is Brigitte so angry? I hope to answer a lot of these questions in the next few minutes. And at the end of the video, we're going to take a look at what we can gain from all of this, what the rewards are. But let's start out with the game mode itself. The game mode is most likely going to be 5 vs 5 and open queue. I had hoped that there would be a bit of a story tied into it with an intro and whatnot, and that we would be put on either side with a limited set of heroes to pick from. But I'm afraid that there's actually way more bad guys than there are good guys in this event, so yeah, I do think we're going to get to pick from a limited set of heroes, but from either side. So just like in a normal game, Talon and Overwatch might be fighting side by side. Now, what heroes are going to be included in this game mode? Well, I have 3 lists. First, there's a definitely these guys list, which is based on the skins that we got in the battle pass and the shop. Then there's the, oh yeah, but these guys already have that type of skin list. And then there's the, nope, they're dead list. Let's start out with that definitely list. By the way, these are all guesses. For some of the heroes, we have names for their abilities, and we saw some stuff during that trailer. But what I'm going to say in the next few minutes is a guesstimate. It's Deemzies at work. Anyways, on the Overwatch side, there's Doomfist, there's Sombra, and there's Widowmaker. We know that Doomfist is getting an ability called Power Block Barrier, which basically is that same ability he has where he soaks damage on himself and charges his punch. But this time around, he's going to also block off a lot of damage for the people behind him, and maybe get some extra power for his punch. Ouchie. We also know the name for Sombra's ability, Antivirus. She's going to protect your dad when he clicks that weird link in that phishing email. Look, I think overall with all these abilities, we're going to see a bit of a switch up going on. So abilities that are kind of inherently for the good guys are not going to copy along to the bad side, but they're going to stick with the good side and going to be put on these new good guys, but with a different twist, if that makes any sense. But I love that idea. And for example, for Sombra, I think she might be stealing Kiriko's Suzu buffs. You know, where she removes a debuff and protects you from incoming damage for a split second, using that antivirus instead of the virus, which I do hope will have a more forgiving range that virus does. Now, what you might ask is, how is she still going to do enough damage when her virus, which is one of her strongest abilities, is actually cleansing people? Either she can both use it on the teammates and the opponents, or maybe they boosted her SMG and it has a bit of a dot to it. Widowmaker. You can see on that new skin for Widowmaker that where she usually keeps her venom mine now is a capsule with yellow fluid, which usually is healing fluid. So instead of having this little poison dart that does a little bit of damage and warns her that someone is creeping up on her, it might be healing gas that she can drop to kind of get herself out of a pickle and even maybe help out her team. Kind of like Soldier does with his little peace thing. There's also a few Talon members on this list, like Reinhardt, whose shield is being replaced by Baptiste's amplification field. Some viewers noticed that it has the same effect on it, and I do think that makes sense. It basically is a movable Baptiste ult, so most likely less impactful. And to be honest, I don't think he has a shield anymore, so good luck. Ana is a bit of a tricky one. Ana really needs all of her abilities to make a difference. But what I was thinking, maybe they can switch out her sleep dart with something that does poison damage, kind of like the virus on Sombra. I mean, looking at that skin, that would be appropriate. Tracer. Well, what if a Chronal Accelerator was not made by Winston, but by someone on Talon? I do think that person would be less worried about her health and more about her effectiveness. So what if they swap out the recall with a little self-boost, where she becomes even a little faster and a little stronger for a short time? Brigitte. Edgy Brigitte. I think she would double down on the healing through damage. And she would even throw her armor packs in there. Maybe she replaces it with something else. Every time she throws it at an enemy, she actually heals everybody around her. Zarya. No more bubbles for everybody else. Only bubbles for Zarya. And on top of that, her grav does damage. Kind of like Surgeon's little orb does. For Mercy, we also have the name of her new ability, Soulburn Detonation, which is the name of a metal band, most likely. during that trailer for Season 10, we saw her do weird stuff with her res ability. So I think that is the ability that got replaced and put on a short cooldown. And my guess would be that it is similar to Mora's ability, but without the beam. And instead of direct damage on the target, it actually makes the enemy pulse out damage to everybody around them. They basically make him into a damage pylon. Something like that. I mean, that would be pretty cool. Target the backline and just have him like kill everybody around him. The last hero that I'm pretty certain is going to be in there is good old Zenyatta, no sector Zenyatta. And for him, I'm going to keep it simple. He's just taking on the ult of his brother, Ramata. And when he ults, instead of just waving around light, he waves around stinky particles. It kills everybody. They might have to buff his healing herb though, but... So, that was the for sure list. At least, I'm pretty sure that all of these heroes will be in the mode. Their abilities is open for discussion. So if you have any other ideas, let me know in the comments. Next up is the list. Well, they already have that type of skin, so they might be in that mode. The first one is Bastion. He has this wishing skin. And what I'm thinking would be really cool is that he finally can transform in some type of helicopter or jet. He can fly. Come on. It needs to happen one day. Echo also has kind of a Winston skin, which is called Stealth. Now imagine that little beam that she uses to kind of finish targets off. That becomes like a huge Echo-shaped beam. It does less damage, but it has way bigger reach. Let me also put Sigma on the list as Dr. De Kuiper. He's working for Overwatch, doing some crazy research. And his kinetic grasp ability gives armor to everybody standing around him. So he likes sharing. Morrison, on the other hand, is getting a null sector OR skin. I'll talk more about that skin later on. Bear with me. First, let's look at her abilities, which wasn't an easy one. I was thinking maybe they could do something with her javelin. But then on the other hand, let's just muggle her up a little bit so that she's able to transfer the heat that is in her gun to the target, and it adds a little debuff. Could be nice. And finally, we have Mora, back in the lab. And this time on the good side. And instead of killing rabbits and whatnot, she's taking on Mercy's job and she can actually res people. She finally has that utility they keep looking for. She will, however, have something gnarly to say every time she does, because it is still Mora, of course. He's grumpy. Alright, now you might be thinking like, oh, you want to be Reinhardt. What about Baptiste, Symmetra, Genji? Well, look, I kind of focused on all the heroes that were in Overwatch, Talon, or Null Sector, Greenshi. I'm not going to take along the Hashimoto or Junkers, because I think they might not be included in the mode. At which point you'll probably say, yeah, sure, you bearded waffle. But what about Winston, Soldier, Reaper, and Amata? They're all missing from that list. And they definitely have skins. Well, that's where we get to the story part of this video. I've said in previous videos that I don't think that this is just a random swap-up. There's lore behind it. Lore behind why these people shifted alliances. In other words, somewhere back in time, the timelines of the canon lore and this new Mirrorwatch lore were one. There was a point at which they split apart. And I genuinely hope that we get a comic, a short story, or even an animation that explains what happened exactly. In any case, this is my theory. I'm going to start somewhere in the middle. Much like Mondata in our universe or the canon universe is a key figure. In the Mirrorverse, it's actually Ramata. See, in the Mirrorverse, he never left the monastery. It was Zenyatta that left, and it's Zenyatta that started Null Sector. And Ramata took over for Mondata at some point. I have no idea what could have happened to Mondata, but it might have been the reason why Zenyatta left. The thing is, Ramata was killed, just like Mondata was in the canon lore. But he wasn't killed by Widowmaker, he was killed by Tracer. How do I know this? Well, there's a Twitter account called Overwatch 2 Voice Lines, and they did an amazing job going through all the voice lines. And they figured out, if you equip the Captain Lacroix skin and you shoot Tracer, this is what she says.
Justice may tire, but I do not. Ramatra wanted peace, you monster!
That is interesting. But how did Tracer end up in Talon? Because she didn't have Winston. In this Mirrorverse, Winston either does not exist, or he's still on the moon with Hammett, just hanging around, eating peanut butter. The riots never happened. But how did that happen? Well, I guess Doomfist was a better leader than Morrison was. Morrison, aka Soldier, died during that whole incident with Raze, which is Reaper, but never got to be Reaper in this storyline, during an explosion in the Overwatch headquarters. And at that point, Doomfist took over. Since Sojourn was not part of Overwatch, she is leading night ops for the Canadian Army. And how did Doomfist join Overwatch? Well, you need to know that there's 3 Doomfists, and the first one was actually a good guy. It was called the Savior, Adabo Nugumi, and he might actually have trained our Doomfist. Well, the Doomfist from the Mirrorverse. And that probably happened because the first Doomfist in that reality actually defeated whoever became the second Doomfist in our reality, Akinyidi Adeyemi, who was known as the Scourge. Yeah, that's not a good name, but he was the one that eventually in our reality trained Doomfist and got him into Talon. If he didn't live, Doomfist never joined Talon. talent. And to be honest, I think Doomfist is very smart and ambitious, and it is his ambition that drove him towards talent. But if you channel that ambition in a different direction, he becomes the leader of Overwatch. Look, I'm certain that the timeline separated even earlier than that, because you have Ana, who is in talent, you have Reinhardt, who has switched to talent, because his skin is called Fallen Knight. It shows that this might go pretty deep. And again, I hope we find out. This is how I think it went, but I do hope we get the official story next week. Alright, before I end this already lengthy video, what can we expect when it comes to rewards? If you complete all the challenges during that event, you'll get a voice line. You'll get a talent Athena spray, which is mind-boggling by itself. You get a talent weapon charm, and the OR unit Orisa skin that I was talking about earlier. That is a new legendary. Some people claim it is an old one. It is not. Yeah, Orisa already has a null sector skin, but this one is different. This is actually the skin for the OR unit that we fought at the end of the invasion mission that was set on King's Row. And I remember when that mission came out, everybody was talking on social media that they wanted to see the skin in game and they wanted to equip it for their Orisa. And there you go. Next week, you complete the challenges, it's yours. But for now, that was it. A huge thank you to my patrons. I could not make these videos without you guys. You have my eternal gratitude. Check out this video in which I react on Flats reacting to my video. It's Reactception. Just click it. And above all, take care of yourself, take care of each other. Bye-bye.